Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane. I'm your host, Shane Fordham, with all the shameless sports takes. So the Giants, a couple weeks ago, they signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston for $30 million combined. And I got to say, just jumping right into it today, I gotta say these aren't bad signings. Like they're not bad signings at all. I mean, Russell Wilson is still a capable quarterback in my eyes, and then you get arguably the best backup quarterback to have in the NFL in Jameis Winston. I don't think these are bad signings at all. I mean, Russell Wilson still a capable quarterback in my eyes. Like I don't think Russell Wilson is washed by any means. Now he's not. We're not talking about prime Russell Wilson. We're not talking about Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson. I mean, his best days are definitely behind him, but Russell Wilson still is a quarterback that is capable of winning games and executing an offense. I mean, he was 6-5 last season as a starter with the Steelers. Two of those losses were without George Pickens, his receiver one, 225 average passing yards per game, 85 QBR, 126 passer rating. I mean, Russell Wilson is still a capable quarterback. I mean, he even had a game this season where he threw for over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, Russell Wilson is still a capable quarterback in this league, especially when you give him a receiver one like Malik Neighbors, like a guy who has elite talent already as a rookie. And in my opinion, really a guy who is better and more of a reliable option than George Pickens just because of how much of a crash out he can be. So, and I mean, he was healthy for most of the season. So when you give Russell Wilson significant weapons like that to use, Darius Slayton, another dependable number 2 guy, like I don't think signing Russell Wilson is a bad option. And I don't think having Jameis Winston as a backup is a bad option. I think what does make these signings dumb, though, is when you take into account that they could have easily paid Saquon Barkley. The Giants could have easily paid Saquon Barkley. So when you take that into account, that's what makes these signings dumb. Because if you have $30 million to pay Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, there was no reason you didn't have that money to pay your best player. Your best player, a generational talent at the running back position. There's no reason. Saquon Barkley that's the type of talent you see at running back. I mean, you don't see that type of talent often. A guy that can do everything. I mean, he can be a power back, he can be a third down back, he can be an elusive guy, he can be one where you got to worry about him breaking one for 40 plus yards, which he often did this season for the Eagles. So, I mean, I get it. Like I get that the quarterback position as a whole is more valuable than running back because of the career span. I mean, the quarterback is the one position in football that is most likely to be the difference between a win and a loss, a winning season and a losing season, a playoff season and a tank of a season. I mean, that's the general of the team. Like I understand the quarterback position as a whole is more important than the running back position. But Saquon Barkley was and is a much better running back than Daniel Jones is quarterback. Saquon Barkley, when healthy, even at that time during his stint in New York, he was, when healthy, a top 3 running back in the NFL. Daniel Jones wasn't even a top 10 quarterback in the NFC, let alone the league. Like, Joe Shane and the Giants chose to pay Daniel Jones off of 1 year where the Giants went to the playoffs, where he took the Giants to the playoffs. He paid Daniel Jones a bag off of 1 year. The Giants is probably the worst run organization in all of sports. The worst run organization in all of sports. To pay Daniel Jones, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts type of money, Joe Burrow type of money, when when you choose to let your best player in Saquon Barkley walk is insane to me. Saquon Barkley was really the only thing that kept the Giants somewhat relevant over the past few years. Somewhat. Not that much, but somewhat. He kept them afloat at least. Like, the Giants choose to pay Daniel Jones and decide to let their best player test the market. They say, hey, Saquon, we're going to let you test the open market, to see what type of attention you get, and then we'll match that depending on what your offers and interests look like from other teams. That is crazy disrespectful. That is so disrespectful. Like, that's like saying, like, if you're in a relationship, that's like if your significant other told you, hey, I think we should take a break, talk to other people, depending on what type of interest and attention you get and depending on who it's from, then we can try to work something out. Then we can try to work something out. I want to see I want to see if I'm the only person or entity that's willing to give you this type of attention and love. I want to see how that compares to what someone else might do. Then, if that happens, if someone else gives you that same type of, then we can see if something can work. That is wild. That is wildly disrespectful. Like, that was a huge slap in the face to Saquon Barkley by the Giants. I mean, if you saw that Hard Knocks clip, the owner of the Giants, he said, are we sure? Or no. First, the owner of the Giants said, are we sure Saquon Barkley won't get an offer? I'm going to have trouble sleeping at night if the Eagles end up picking up Saquon Barkley. The different execs in the room are saying, are we sure that Saquon Barkley won't get an offer from someone else? Like, that decision didn't even feel right, especially in consideration when the alternative option is so that you can pay a quarterback like Daniel Jones, who isn't even a solid quarterback to have. When healthy, wasn't even a solid quarterback to have. Way more of a liability than an asset. Like, even if you take Saquon Barkley out of the picture, if you have Daniel Jones at your quarterback on the Giants, you still need to contemplate drafting a quarterback. Like, if you need to contemplate drafting a quarterback, that's like, if you have a QB1 where you are still in a position where you need to contemplate drafting a quarterback, that means that's not a guy that you need to pay. It's not a guy you need to pay. So the Giants choosing, I mean, it's what makes it even crazier, though, is that Saquon Barkley is honestly one of the best running backs to ever play the game of football. One of the best running backs to ever play the game of football. That's a guy you need to hold on to for dear life. You need to pay him that money. Like, I'm not saying you need to necessarily break the bank, but the Giants could have paid him enough of a fair offer to keep him in a Giants uniform. Saquon Barkley is one of the greatest running backs of all time. After what he did this season, Saquon Barkley is one of the greatest running backs of all time. No other running back in the history of the game has ever done what Saquon Barkley did this year. No running back other than Saquon Barkley has ever run for over 2,500 yards in a complete season and won a Super Bowl. No other running back has done that. So the Giants pass up on what is now an all-time great talent so that they can pay a Daniel Jones. That to me just shows how, that to me just proves the point that Joe Schoen is a terrible evaluator of talent. Joe Schoen is a terrible evaluator of talent because Saquon Barkley was doing what he was doing with no protection from the O-line. That should have been the focus. Pay and bolster up your O-line. Saquon Barkley was an elite running back in the NFL with zero protection in front of him. He was creating his own lanes. Like, playing behind the Giants O-line and playing behind the Eagles O-line are two different situations. Like, if you could see what he was doing behind the Giants O-line, what did you think he was going to do behind a Hall of Fame caliber Eagles O-line? I mean, Joe Schoen proved himself to be a terrible evaluator of talent. So the signings of Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston aren't bad signings. They're not dumb signings, but it is dumb when you take into account that they could have paid Saquon Barkley. Something else that makes these signings dumb is if the Giants were to draft Shedeur Sanders this year. If the Giants were to draft Shedeur Sanders this year, Joe Schoen would basically just be wasting money. Drafting Shedeur Sanders would make Joe Schoen look like he doesn't have a plan and that he does not need to be in that position for the Giants. And this is not a shot at Shedeur Sanders. This is a shot at Joe Schoen. Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, is the best quarterback in this entire draft class. Like, if I'm the Titans, I'm taking Shedeur before I take Cam Ward. Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback to have in this draft, not because, he's significantly more talented. He doesn't have crazy explosive legs. He doesn't have a generational arm per se. Like, he doesn't have the tools to be able to rise above a bottom feeder franchise necessarily, like a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, type of just being able to wiggle and just make magic happen, against, depending on who he's playing against. Like, but what Shedeur Sanders does have is he's accurate, he's a leader, he has the confidence that you need and want your quarterback to have, but most importantly, he's battle tested. Shedeur Sanders is the most battle tested quarterback in this entire draft class. Shedeur Sanders is used to playing under pressure. And I don't mean the pressure that comes with his name or with his image. I'm talking about pressure on the field. Shedeur Sanders has had zero protection in Colorado during his stint there. Colorado has had arguably one of, if not the worst offensive line in all of FBS. And still, Shedeur Sanders has been able to win games and have the stats that he has. This man 2 years ago was the most sacked quarterback in all of college. Was on his back 52 times during the season. Still throwing for over 3,000 yards. This year, fourth in passing yards per game, over 4,000 passing yards in the season. Second in passing touchdowns with 37. This man has had no O-line. Still a 4,000 yard passer, throwing for almost 40 passing touchdowns in a single season. Like, that's I think Shedeur Sanders is going to have the smoothest transition to the NFL out of all of these other quarterbacks, because none of these other quarterbacks have had to create under this amount of pressure like Shedeur Sanders has had to. Like, if you ask any player in the NFL, or at least any offensive player in the NFL, any skill player rather, they'll tell you the biggest difference between playing in college and playing in the NFL is the separation of the D-line. The rate at which the D-line is able to get off of their blocks in the NFL as opposed to college is a lot quicker at the professional level than it is the college level. The D-line, the rate at which the D-line is able to create separation and get off their blocks is a lot quicker than that in college. Any offensive skill player will tell you that. That's the biggest difference. That's a big reason why a lot of these rookie quarterbacks, their first year in the NFL, they have challenges adapting to their new environment in the NFL because they have to make decisions quicker. They can't They can't rely on just their pure athleticism holding on to the ball until something opens up down the field. They're not able to hold on to the ball super long and move around as much in the pocket until something opens up, because the D line, the pressure that comes from an NFL D line is more immense and a lot quicker than that of a college D line. Caleb Williams is a good example of that. Caleb Williams at USC, he was able to hold on to the rock all day long in the pocket because either he had a clean pocket for like 5 seconds, or he was athletic enough to be able to bob and weave back there, being able to buy his receivers and skill players more time down the field to be able to find a hole in the offense, because a secondary can only cover receivers for so long, especially if you're in man. Like, he was able to do that in college. In Chicago, totally different story. Totally different story. He was struggling back there. He sort of found his stride and niche and was more comfortable towards the end of the season. But you could see playing behind a Chicago Bears O-line and a USC O-line, totally different. Totally different. Especially when you are playing against a solid pass rush, solid or better pass rush behind an O-line that is not great. You have to make decisions a lot quicker. As opposed to having 4 to 5 seconds, maybe even sometimes 6 seconds to make a decision, to create a play out of nothing, you now have to make it happen in 2 to 3. Maybe sometimes not even 3. Shedeur Sanders has had to play under those conditions since he's gotten to Colorado. He doesn't have the luxury of having 4 to 5 seconds to create and make something happening. Shedeur Sanders consistently creates something out of nothing in 2 to 3 seconds when he was in Colorado. A lot of his throws were on the run, contested, throwing through tight windows. Shedeur Sanders was making those type of plays quick and under pressure. 2 to 3 seconds at most. Cam Ward hasn't had to do that as consistently. Jackson Dart hasn't had to do that as consistently. Will Howard definitely hasn't had to do that as consistently. Dylan Gabriel, none of these guys have had to play under the type of pressure that Shedeur Sanders has had to, which is why, to me, Shedeur Sanders is the better pick, because he has that type of experience where he is already used to playing in those type of conditions. So to me, Shedeur Sanders is the best QB in this draft class. And if I'm a team that needed a quarterback, I would take Shedeur Sanders first. But to me, the Giants is not a team that needs a quarterback first. They have so many other holes on this team that need to be filled. Quarterback should not be at the top of that list in terms of wants and needs. If I'm the Giants, I'm taking Travis Hunter over Shedeur Sanders any day of the week. If I'm the Giants, I got the number 3 pick and Travis Hunter is still on the board and Shedeur Sanders is still on the board, I'm taking Travis Hunter. That's no disrespect to Shedeur, but Travis Hunter would be the perfect pick for the Giants because of just everything that he is able to do on the field. Drafting Travis Hunter would give Russell Wilson another weapon to use, in addition to that of a Malik Neighbors, an offensive rookie of the year candidate, and a reliable, dependable number 2 option in Darius Slayton. So now you have a true trio that then allows Wan'Dale Robinson, who showed some promise this past season, could be more consistent, but showed some promise. You now get to move him to more of a number 4, where now you have more of a rotation at receiver with 2 elite talented guys at receiver in Travis Hunter and Malik Neighbors. But you also get a defensive back, a corner, to add to your defense. It's no secret that this Giants secondary has struggled, especially since losing Xavier McKinney, especially since losing Adoree Jackson. Getting Travis Hunter gives you the best of both worlds. You get a guy who can be a threat on offense, but then you also get a valuable addition and piece for your secondary on defense. That would then make it easier for your premier pass rush in Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibbs, and a healthy Dexter Lawrence to create more pressure on the quarterback. That would make your pass rush a little easier, because now that there aren't as many holes, deep field, deep thirds of the field, it forces the quarterback to either have to hold on to the ball a little longer or to just get rid of it. Either way, it makes that front three and front four's job easier in getting and in creating pressure on the quarterback. Especially when they're healthy, really an elite D line in Brian Burns, Thibbs, and Dexter Lawrence. Like, that is talent-wise, that is an elite D line to have. So getting Travis Hunter, you get the best of both worlds. It makes your offense better and it makes your defense better. And it could possibly even make your special teams better if you want to have him return, if you want to have him be a return specialist. Travis Hunter is the clear choice for the Giants. Especially when you always have a shot at a quarterback next year. You always have a shot at a quarterback next year, where now once you're in the market for a quarterback next year, you would be bringing him into an offense that has a Malik Neighbors, that has a true 1-2 punch in Malik Neighbors and Travis Hunter, that really has a trio once you put Darius Slayton in that mix. And you have a solid run game in Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Devin Singletary. A backfield that is really used in a similar fashion to that of what the Commanders had this year, in terms of having just a head down, nose down, north to south type of running back in Brian Robinson Jr., and then more of a dual threat running back who can operate in the pass and the run in Austin Eckler. Travis Hunter, to me, is the clear choice for the Giants. Another pick that would be a better pick than Shedeur for the Giants, to me, would be Ashton Jeanty. Now, I think Ashton Jeanty would be a solid pickup for the Giants, because, okay, you already have your passing threat, your pass catching threat in Malik Neighbors. You still have a solid number 2 in Darius Slayton. You have already a solid backfield, but now you would be pairing Ashton Jeanty, and you would be creating a true strong, a true three-headed monster in the run game in Jeanty, Tyrone Tracy Jr., and Devin Singletary. But if you bring in Ashton Jeanty, you have a 1-2 punch at least in Ashton Jeanty, a guy who can do a little more. He's a little more of a versatile back, can be elusive and powerful, can even be used in the pass. Then you have Tyrone Tracy Jr., your north to south guy. That then allows you to trade Devin Singletary for something else. You can now flip Devin Singletary for another piece, maybe to even add to the defense. Ashton Jeanty could come into the NFL being an elite talent at running back. Ashton Jeanty, that is a guy who has an elite potential at the running back position as a ball carrier. I think Ashton Jeanty would, and it would no doubt make this offense a little more balanced, where now, since defenses have to worry about a shifty, elusive guy in the backfield like Jeanty, that now spreads the field out a little more for Malik Neighbors to tear the top off of a defense, for Malik Neighbors to find holes in the deep thirds of the defense. You can't just have your DBs stacked over top anymore, because now that opens up the field for Ashton Jeanty. So now, having Ashton Jeanty, you now give a more balanced offense to your new quarterback in Russell Wilson. You have more of a balanced system now, having a more reinforced run game and a solidified passing game in New York. But then, I mean, I think that there are several other options that the Giants could go with as opposed to Shedeur Sanders. If Joe Shane were to draft Shedeur Sanders with the signings and the decisions that they as the Giants organization has already made, it would make Joe Shane look like he has no plan. So I definitely think the Giants have an opportunity to really create something interesting this offseason, depending on what they do in the draft. But knowing Joe Shane is going to mess it up. Hey, as an Eagles fan, I hope Joe Shane stays in New York. As an Eagles fan and someone who covers the Commanders, I want Joe Shane. I would love Joe Shane to be the Giants GM forever, because that just means that the Eagles' path to the playoffs is just going to be easier and easier every year. The Commanders' path to the playoffs is going to be easier and easier every year. It's going to keep giving me something to talk about. As long as Joe Shane is the GM of the Giants, I'm never going to be out of a job. I'm never going to be out of a job as long as Joe Shane keeps his. I mean, that division is basically just going to be a toss up between the Commanders and the Eagles every year as long as Joe Shane is in New York, because Jerry ain't going nowhere. Jerry ain't going nowhere. So, I mean, as an Eagles fan, someone who covers the Commanders, I would love to see Joe Shane stay where he's at. But if I'm the Giants, I would need, especially depending on what happens in this year's draft, I would need to consider other options for GM. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And I will be back later on with more shameless takes.